Today I will explain how we create scores, new music inside the Eyeharp, so we can use the visual and audio help of Eyeharp software. And to do this, what we first need is MuseScore. MuseScore is a software which allows us to write new score music, so in the pentagram, and export it to MIDI, which is what we need in Eyeharp. Eyeharp reads MIDI. So, but before we do anything else, the first thing we need to do is we have to be able to modify the Eyeharp catalog folder. Oh, and before I start everything, I just want to let you know, everyone, that what I say here, you can also find in the user manual, which is in the Eyeharp webpage. So I will share my screen now. If you go to eyeharp.org and then you hit the download button, you will enter this page. And at the bottom of this page, you will find the user manual. So if you open the user manual, there is a section of creating scores. So whatever we will cover here, you can also find it in this section. It's pretty analytic, so you will find everything that we will say. But let's make a video tutorial now for exactly this thing. So the first thing you need to do is to probably, this is not included in the manual, but yes, good point. This should be included in the future. So you have to go to the folder that Eyeharp songs or scores are found. It's program data folder. This is a hidden Windows folder, so if you don't see it, you have to go to View, and so you have to have activated Show Hidden Items. All right. So if this is enabled, it's also good to have Show File Name extensions for what we will do in the process of creating scores. So activate these two, and then enter the program data folder. And inside this folder, you will find an Eyeharp folder. So what we want to do is to give access to ourselves, the users of the computer, to modify and create new files in this folder. So to do this, we go to Properties, right-click on the Eyeharp folder, okay, Properties, and then we go to Security, and we have to go to the users. Where are the users? Yeah. Edit, change permissions, edit, again users, and we have to click the full control. This full control. This will click automatically everything here. So and then users, full control, users add full control, and then OK. So in my computer it was already activated, but this would give you access to modify everything in Eyeharp folder. Or alternatively, as a safer option, probably, yeah, you could also just do it in the catalog folder, because unless you want to create new scales and chords. So yeah, better to do it in the Eyeharp folder so you have access to everything. Okay. So once we have access here, what we want to do is create our first score. So one option is that we can create a score from scratch, or we can download a score from MuseScore library or import any MIDI score. So to start with, I will just create quickly a score myself. MuseScore. We open MuseScore. You should have installed MuseScore 4, the latest version. And then this window shows up. We create a new score. we create an instrument for the melody of the Eyeharp. It doesn't really matter which instrument we create for the Eyeharp, for the user to play, I mean. This is the user's instrument. It doesn't really matter because in the Eyeharp we will be able to change this instrument later. I have picked flute. And it's also a good strategy to add a second instrument. So let's add, for example, an acoustic guitar to add some chords to accompany the melody. So an important point here is that the instrument on top is the instrument that is assigned to the user playing with the eyes. So this is what the user will play, and the rest of the instruments are the accompaniment, karaoke style, let's say, instruments that the software will play to accompany us when we play in tempo. So these instruments, for the Eyeharp to assign the correct sound to each instrument, it should be limited to the instruments that are inside the Eyeharp catalog. So let's open Eyeharp. So here are all instruments we can assign, of course, not cat and dog and animal, but all the instruments that are in common, all of the instruments up to mandolin, exist in MuseScore. So we have to give one of these names, all right? So that's why I have picked acoustic guitar as accompaniment, and flute, it doesn't really matter because it's the user sounds, but I picked flute. And yeah, we can click done now. So let's start with, let's write Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, a very simple melody. And it's always a good strategy to leave an empty bar at the beginning. So apart from Eyeharp giving 4 on-screen numbers, 4, 3, 2, 1, depending on the tempo or on the rhythm, if we are in 4 quarters, it will give 4. And but it's always good to have additional 4 clicks of the metronome. So we leave 1 bar. This is for the 4 clicks of the metronome. And we start typing the melody here. So for you that are a bit familiar with MuseScore, you know that to start editing, we have to click here. And then we can either start writing the notes with the mouse or with the keyboard. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Okay. And then it goes this part again. And we are done with the melody. All right. Then we can get rid of the rest of the bars. I did it with Control and Delete. Or you can right click and delete delete measures after you select them all. So now I will add some basic chord accompaniment. I could type here notes like an arpeggio, but when I create new songs on the spot, when I do classes, sometimes the student tells me I want to play this. So it's just 5 minutes really to create a score and import it in Eyeharp. And I prefer the fast way. So I just type chords in this style, Control and K, or add text chord symbol. So you select what you want, Control and K. Here is Do. with space. I move to the next notes. Rock, this is Do. Okay, so a very common mistake that messes up things in Eyeharp a lot is sometimes, especially when we download scores from MuseScore, people put sometimes we have chords assigned to the first pentagram of Eyeharp, to the flute. This will add additional notes that are here. That, for example, if I add a chord here like this, then this fa la do, these notes are also assigned to Eyeharp, but obviously the user has to play a monophonic melody. So this will add additional notes and will mess up things a lot when performing. So make sure you have no chords assigned in the first pentagram. So here, the instrument that shows up on top is what the Eyeharp will take and assign it to the user melody. So if you download score and the melody you want is in different position, you can change the position with these arrows here, up and down. So we have the flute on top, which is what the user will play, and the acoustic guitar. Okay, now we can save this in the MuseScore scores folder, for example, and we can save it in the Eyeharp folder, as you wish. Because when we edit, it's always better to edit the MuseScore file instead of the MIDI file that the Eyeharp reads. Because if we open the MIDI file, all the repetitions and many other meta information that MuseScore has are lost in the MIDI file. So it's always good to keep the MuseScore files apart, maybe in the same folder as Eyeharp or not. So as you can see, I have here on the quick access of Windows a catalog folder. This is the Eyeharp catalog folder, and it's always a good idea if you create a lot of scores to create the same shortcut here. So to do this, once you go to Eyeharp, you can just drag and drop this to the quick access menu that you find here. If you don't see it, probably, I don't remember now. If you don't see this, there is a way to make this show up in Windows. But by default, you should be able to see it, so you should be fine. So you just add the catalog here, so you have access quickly to all the folders. So here, you can create your own folders. So as you can see, I have a lot of folders, one folder for each student I have, because I added there his or her favorite pieces. So let's create a new folder here. Let's name it My Songs, I don't know. And then everything we create would be added to this folder. So what we want to do now is export this file to MIDI, the main score. We go to catalog folder, go to my scores, my songs, Twinkle Twinkle, save. Okay, we have the MIDI file that the Eyeharp will read. Now we need an additional XML file. We can take it from a different folder. I will just take a random song, an XML file from a different folder now, because it's just faster to copy paste it and then modify it. And this is what I will do. So here we have the XML file. I will change the name to Twinkle. And then I open it. I have chosen to open it with Notepad++. So by default, I have set that if you choose another app, you can choose whatever app you want. It's a good idea to download Notepad++ and open with this. Then you will also have the option with right-click, edit with Notepad++, because it highlights the tags of the XML file and it's good for programming. So this is some kind of code. It's XML file. So the XML file has some tags. So the first tag is that this is a song, okay? And here we defined some properties of the songs. I like the level. What's the difficulty? How difficult it is? So it's level 3. This does not affect something right now. It affects actually, right now this doesn't affect anything. So you can just ignore it. In the future, it's supposed to, to propose new songs to the user automatically depending on the level that the system detects the user has. But for now, it's just here. So, well, you can put one level from 1 to 5 if you want, but it will not affect anything. So here in title, we write the title of the song that will show up in the catalog when we open it. So I will just type Twinkle. Twinkle. The composer is Mozart. I think so, or Beethoven. Something like that, no? Yeah, it's Mozart. So it's correct. By coincidence, we opened an XML file that has the same composer. So the MIDI file, here we have to type exactly the same name as the twinkle.mid. So everything, we copy paste everything. You can see .mid.xml because we here, as I said before, have activated hidden file name extensions, okay? So here I copy the full name. Oh, I opened the MIDI. So as you can see, when opening the MIDI, here are all the notes. Instead of the chords, you see what each chord is translated to in real notes. But we don't need this now. So copy the whole name and paste here. So this will tell Eyeharp the notes of the user and the accompaniment. So minimum rest, this is a more advanced feature. So this is actually a quick and dirty way to simplify the chords for some users. So what this does is that if we had here, for example, an 8th note, and because when playing rests in Eyeharp, you have to look outside, so it's extra fixations, and this can make sometimes lower the performance. So if you want to simplify things, so we want to ignore this rest or other small rests, we say that, okay, any rest that is less than 2 quarters or 1 quarter or 1/8 note or whatever number we want, ignore it. So this was 2. So obviously in the previous song, I had downloaded the XML file that I copied was a file that had some short rests that I wanted to ignore. I wanted to ignore all rests that are smaller than 2/4 in this case. Okay, let's leave it like this because here we don't have any actually rests, so it wouldn't affect anything. Yeah, here is MP3 file. You can add an MP3 file that will be playing in the background as accompaniment instead of the MIDI accompaniment. But this is a bit more complicated. I don't think we have time to cover this now in this tutorial, because this, well, you can download, you can have an MP3 from, or if you have an MP3, you can use it in Eyeharp, but you have to remove all the silence at the beginning. And if it's not aligned very well, you can set an offset value here, so you can move it left or right, or right. The waveform of the MP3, you can align it then perfectly, so as it goes on tempo with Eyeharp. There is way to import any MP3, even if it's not recorded with the metronome. Even if it moves, it changes the tempo. You can make other changes in MuseScore, and then when playing the score in Eyeharp changes the tempo, and it remains aligned. But I think this is too complicated to explain now, so let's leave all the MP3 feature for now out for this tutorial. And here you tell the tonality. The tonality determines the notes that will appear in Eyeharp, so in this region, the colors. And whatever note is not part of the, in this case, for example, we are in C major, will show up as a circle outside, as semitone. But this keeps the interface as simple as possible. So if we have a like twinkle twinkle a C major scale, we will have no semitones and all notes down here. So here the tonality has to be a major scale. So A, B, C, D, F, G, A for La, B for C, C for Do, etc. Here we determine the tempo, set it to 100. So the tempo we can set it here, and we can also set it, of course, here. And we should set it in both places, ideally, because if we have some tempo changes inside the piece, inside the score, Eyeharp will only make them if the tempo that we have set here, let's say it's 100, if it is equal, if it is the same as the tempo we set here. Only then, if we have a tempo change here, for example, it will take it into consideration. It will account it. So, okay, now that I made a modification and I updated the tempo, I have to again export. All right. Transpose. This is just a quick and dirty way to set the tonality to a different scale. So we can, if we set here 1, it will be C, Do sharp, Re, 2 for Re, etc. and so on. So 7 will be for Sol, where we are going 7 semitones up, etc. So, but let's leave this empty for now. Another way to have a different tonality that would take more time would be to go to MuseScore and transpose from here, all right, and then export again, and then set the right tonality. Here, if we were transposing to Sol, we write G, for example. But this is just like changing the transpose value inside the Eyeharp when loading the song. Here is the countdown. So if you see when you play a song in Eyeharp, when you hit play, when you play with rhythm, you see 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you start. So this determines exactly how many countdown numbers you have. And here we define the metronome. So the metronome has a pattern. The metronome has a length value, which by default here is 4. So 4 beats, and these 4 beats repeat all the time. Then if you have a piece that changes the rhythm, so it might start with 4 quarters and then it goes to 3, then you cannot do it in Eyeharp. So you will have to just set the length to 1 and just one single click. Or you can also delete the metronome altogether and add a drum set track here that would be like the metronome in the MIDI files, and then you can put everything rhythmically. You can write anything you want in MuseScore. But for creating faster metronome, if you copy paste an XML, you will have a typical metronome. So here it has some comma separated values that define the first value. So this is a note of the metronome, its line. The first value is the instrument that it's used. In this case, it's number 2, which corresponds to the second instrument. In Eyeharp, it makes perfect sense to use the drum set as a sound for the metronome. 35. So this is the MIDI number that corresponds to each sound of the drum set. You can find the sounds by Googling like drum set MIDI sounds or MIDI note, and then you will find online like all the sounds of drums and the MIDI number that corresponds to them. But you can just leave them as they are because these values are pretty good. Like the 35 is for keep, like doop, and 41 is for clack, like in the snare drum, a very soft sound. So this will be doop, clack, clack, clack. So this is the length of each note, 0.7. Well, it doesn't really matter because these notes don't have really duration. They just percussive sounds, but okay, you can leave it as it is. And this is the volume, MIDI volume, which varies from, the range is from 0 to 127. So this is a high value, but not the maximum. And this is where in the loop. So this is the beginning of the loop, the first quarter, the second, the third, and the fourth. So if you wanted to play the last 8th note, we'll write 4.5, for example. So it goes up to 4.99, the loop, let's say. So here we have. You can just copy paste this, and if you have like 3 quarters, you just modify this value to 3, count down to 3, and you delete the last one. This is a very typical metronome, the last row, and you have a 3 quarters metronome. Okay, we save the twinkle twinkle file, and now if we go to Eyeharp, let's control everything with the eyes. So if you go to Eyeharp, you should have a my songs folder. Where is it? All right. So here we have Twinkle Twinkle. And if we hit play, we should have the song created. All right. So I think, let me see if I have forgotten to say something important, but I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. All right. So let's quickly see, just make sure that I have covered everything. So as I said before, here you can have the same information. Yeah, creating a score. The stuff must be at top of the score that the user plays. Here you can also, I didn't say that because it was 4 quarters to the default values, but yeah, you can select when creating the scores the rhythm and the time signature, I mean. Okay, it has to be one of these sounds. If it's not one of these sounds, then Eyeharp will automatically assign harp. I didn't say harp sound, I didn't say that. If it doesn't find the corresponding sound in Eyeharp, it will assign harp sound. So be careful when you download the scores from New Score and you create Eyeharp score from them. Be careful with the drum set. And something else very important that I didn't mention, I think, is that the name of the staff should be in English for Eyeharp to recognize them. So you should run New Score basically in English, or at least run in English when assigning the names of the instruments and when exporting to MIDI. Then if you want, you can go back to your own language. But the names, the language of New Score will affect the name of the instruments, and it has to be in English for Eyeharp to recognize them. So ideally run New Score in English, or when creating the staff names and exporting, change language to English. Okay, so for better quality, yes, it sounds better when you use piano, contrabass, harp, organ, but you can use any of these. You can experiment. It's a personal taste. Yeah, so everything else should be pretty much what I said. Okay, you replace the values. Everything I said is also explained here. Yeah, and the MP3 feature, we can cover it in a future session if you wish. So there is also one more tag in the XML file. Probably I can share screen to. It's not included in the manual, I realize now, but it should be added later today, because there is the don't repeat same. This is also a quick and dirty way to make a song simpler. So if you have, let's say, do, 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 instead it replaces it with a long do. So this, yes, automatically removes many notes and it's a quick way to make a song simpler. But yeah, it's better if you create a simple score from the beginning. Yeah, because you don't want to remove all repetitions of notes, just probably the ones that are really difficult.